Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt, and when I want to know what's going on with the Cavs, the Browns, and the Tribe, I tune into Sports Fix.
American Revolution Wrestling and the Lake Erie Crushers present Brawl at the Ballpark. Saturday, August 1st at All Pro Freight Stadium in Avon. Come enjoy a live professional wrestling event featuring Hall of Famers Bret the Hitman Hart, Lita, The Franchise, Shane Douglas, Vader, Rhino, the FBI, and more. VIP tickets include a special early access meet and greet with the stars. Brawl at the Ballpark, August 1st at All Pro Freight Stadium. For more info or to purchase tickets, visit amrevwrestling.com now.
Hey guys, J-Rocc here from the Sports Fix, and we always talking about using our platform to try to help the world and the society we live in, and everywhere I go and everywhere we go, bullying is one of the problems in today's society. There's nothing worse than any person, big or small, strong or weak, adult or child, feeling picked on, pushed around, vulnerable, and victimized at the hands of a bully. Change comes one person at a time, and my good friends at No Such Thing as a Bully are working on skills and techniques and ways that we can all change and make things better for everyone. Find out more at nosuchthingasabully.com.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
And away we go, off and running there. Took a minute. You know, Mondays are always unique. Little kinks pop up after, I don't know, just out of the blue, little gremlins. But we're good. We're off and running. Got another week started. It's going to be a short week here on the Sports Fix here, and I'll get into all that in just a minute. But a lot of things to talk, a lot of things to talk about from over the weekend. I had I guess I'd call it the privilege and the, fortunate thing to be out of town this weekend. And I'll be the first one to tell you that I was not able to watch the majority of the Indians games this weekend live. Listened to a little bit of Sunday's game on the radio, and was obviously inundated with my score alert updates on my phone as I was on the road wrestling this weekend. And all of my plans when I got back late last evening to catch up on that, I'm not even going to lie, I did not catch up on watching those games. Those unwatchable games from over the weekend as the Indians, you don't need me to tell you, get swept at home against Chicago. On the weekend, they put up the Larry Doby statue. Again, against the last place team. It was some bad baseball played by two teams that looked like they wanted to be anywhere else, except we wanted to be there even less. And I mean, I'll tell you what, it's disappointing, man. It's frustrating. Because it does not need to be this way. I was texting back and forth with Mike Brandenberry this morning. Mike, of course, from didthetribewinlastnight.com. He'll be with us here in the 1 o'clock hour on the show. Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland. He's in the leadoff spot today. Just about 10, 12 minutes from now, Dan's going to get in on the show. When Mike joins us a little bit later, we're going to talk about now the Indians and their clear to me positioning now, different positioning as sellers. If there was any question before heading into the deadline this week, with our shows being preempted at the end of the week, Mike's going to join us today to kind of look ahead to that. And he was like, hey man, I'm just going to tell you now, I'm keeping it real. This isn't going to be positive. And as you know, positive Mike isn't all that easy to find anyway. But I'm like, hey, man, I understand. You know what? I'll tell you a story, you guys. As I was driving home last night, and again, I said I didn't get to watch all of the games, but I clearly knew that the Indians got swept. As a matter of fact, I was in the locker room both Saturday and Sunday when they lost, and I got the alert. And there's a couple of other guys from around Cleveland or from around Ohio that were around, so they're Indians fans too. And they just knew when and you say a few things that you can't say on the radio, man. And he's like, "What's up?" And I'm like, "Damn Indians!" And they knew. I mean, because it was just a tough weekend, but kind of a kick in the teeth. And I mean, this is something that many of you guys complain to me about all the time, and I have a hard time arguing the case with you. I'm with you. I'm totally with you, but I'm driving home late last evening, and on 90 west, coming in from Pennsylvania, if you're coming in, I think it's somewhere around east, I don't know, 100 and something. It's right over there on the east side, you guys, somewhere between 185th and 55th. I can't remember where, but there's that Indians billboard. If you're coming 90 heading into downtown, on the left-hand side of the freeway, the Indians have a big digital billboard up there. And man, I'm driving past it, kicking the gut. All weekend they've been smacked around at home, and I mean, just a waste of some of the best pitching you'll see this side of the Mississippi, that's for sure. And what do I see on the sign? It's an Indians advertisement for this week. All I see is 3 giant words: Dollar Dog Night. Tuesday in small letters underneath. No opponent, no picture of a player, no matchup, nothing baseball related. Simply a giant billboard saying Dollar Dog Night. And I mean, you know what? How many times do people, we've made these comments, you guys have made the witticisms and the sarcastic remarks, and I mean, till we're blue in the face. You don't want bobbleheads and dollar dogs and this and that. You just want, I know where we're going to go. And again, I'm sure this conversation will go in those directions with Dan and with Mike today. But it really struck me there just in the midst of this, because again, I think all of you guys out there, some are more hostile and angry towards the front office and the ownership of the Indians. Others are more understanding of the ups and downs of the game. But either way, this is frustration here, because this did not need to be like this. Matter of fact, this season and this group of Indian seasons, the last few seasons, all should have been better than what they were, to be totally honest with you. And we're really now beginning to see, we can beat ourselves blue in the face about the Nick Swisher and the Bourne contract. But I mean, the fact of the matter is that for as much as you like to say the Indians are competing with a $90 million payroll, they're playing with 2/3 of that. And it's ridiculous, because to think that this team with a $60 million payroll is tantalizingly, frustratingly good just allows you to get that much more upset. That and again, I understand that we're not playing $200 million ball, and I don't want that. I'm not that guy anyway, although sometimes it would be fun to just write the checks, but that's not even the point. The point is, and I think I talked about this Friday, and we're going to talk about this some more today, is I get it and we get it, that those contracts signed were bad. And we knew they were bad when they were signed, but you hoped, at least the Indians hope, which it didn't work out, was to get at least a good first couple years out of it, and then you pay the price on the back end. But you've paid the price for 3 seasons in a row now. And I think at that point now, if you refuse to eat that salary, and I get it, and Mike's going to say his favorite expression, the Indians have never done, I get it, they don't do it, but you need to do it this time, because to me, you trot out another, for all effects and purposes, $60-65 million payroll again next season, and you are completely slapping this fan base in the face. I believe you already crossed that line this season there as well, because I can understand in a small market looking at your fan base and going, man, we've kind of got to bite the bullet on this for another season and see if we can get our money out of it. But when you get into years 3 and 4 of diminishing returns to the point that they're handicapping anything good that you're trying to do, that is where the model has to get thrown out of the window. And I believe that the Indians have a very, very real set of decisions to make here, including what they do this week, because I think what moves they may or may not make this week could show you their thought process on that. Because I said this the other day, and I'll say it again. You don't cut off your nose to spite your face. If the Indians make a bunch of moves or a couple of bigger moves at the trade deadline, moving pieces out simply to compensate for the salary that they're going to be paying out to those guys again next season, man, this whole thing is going to get ugly for the next few years, because you are now compromising the future to fix a present that can't be fixed. And anyways, we're going to get into all of that. But, I mean, trust me, guys, I'm feeling your frustration today, most definitely. And I had to open the show and admit that DVR, delete. No, I am not interested in watching those games. Something I am interested and was interested in, I should say, and catching back up on. Didn't get to watch it live, which is why it killed me, because I knew the result of the fight before I was able to catch up to it. Jessica Eye, how many of you guys Saturday night watched her? I had a bunch of friends live in attendance in Chicago there at the Allstate Arena, and my one buddy was sitting right behind Jared Allen of the Bears and a couple of other of the big celebrities that were there. Said it was an awesome, just the big fight environment. But Miesha Tate's going to get the next title shot at Ronda Rousey. Jessica Eye, by the way, happy birthday to Jessica Eye today. Unfortunately, not the birthday celebration she was hoping to have coming back to Cleveland here today. But you know what? This is Cleveland, baby. You pick yourself up, you dust yourself off. It was a good fight, and it was, unfortunately, Miesha Tate did what she had to do to get the win. A little bit of questionable there, the hit on the ground there in the third round, but it is what it is. Jessica Eye still made a great showing for herself, I think, and I'm looking forward to seeing her bounce back from this one and go back after Miesha Tate again. I mean, she'll put herself right back in that conversation. She got there before, but I was disappointed because I saw the results across the ticker before, because I was wrestling Saturday night and I was unable to see it live. So it was kind of anticlimactic there. You're watching it knowing where the end result is as you're watching it. So kind of took the excitement out of being able to watch it live. And many of you guys also down, I see Bruce in the chat room there, down at Progressive Field watching the weekend that was down there, particularly the Larry Doby stuff. I know a lot of people enjoyed that, even if they didn't enjoy the baseball that was played, man. Even the good game yesterday, which, by the way, I at least got to listen to that one. Traveling from one show to the other yesterday, I got to listen to most of that one in the car, because you can get 100 or not 100 points. You can get 1,100 just about anywhere in the country if you drive in the right angle from Ohio. So I was at least able to listen to some of that, but even that one can't scratch anything across, wasting it. Just unbelievable, you guys. We're gonna get into all of this, as you know. We're gonna talk about this and so much more. Matter of fact, we really should get into a break here and get Dan Wismar in on the conversation and get this thing rolling. We've got a lot to get into. We're gonna talk some Indians heading into the trade deadline. We're going to talk a little bit of Buckeyes with Dan Wismar, get his thoughts on Braxton Miller. Hey, what is it? These Ohio State quarterbacks getting ready to play some wide receiver, man. Terrell Pryor's out, getting himself in the best shape of his life, getting ready to go. He was out there with Josh Gordon and Josh McCown catching some passes, and at the Randy Moss training deal there, and you got Braxton Miller. But we're going to talk a little bit about that with Dan Wismar when he joins us, talk some Indians. Cavaliers, too. We didn't even get into that here. Cavs make some moves over the weekend here, actually just yesterday, that will allow them to make some moves here coming up later on this season, as they were able to free up, nearly almost 14, like $13.5 million worth of trade exceptions, which would allow them, basically that would allow them to trade nothing and get back a $13 million player back, is basically how that works, because of the salaries. You have to match them in basketball, so that'll work in the future. What I thought was interesting about it was that Mike Miller was in on the trade, because if you remember, all the scuttlebutt that came out of Miami a few years ago was what ticked LeBron off, that the ownership kicked Mike Miller to the curb because they didn't want to pay the luxury tax at the time, and they weakened the bench, etc. This time, and you know what though? Different story, because it's a few years later, and then there was a spot in the rotation for Mike Miller had he been there. Here, there is no spot, and I mean, that was going to be the problem, was finding minutes. He was traded with the idea of getting up. Trust me, if he wanted to come back to Cleveland, he could. He can take a buyout for Portland, and we'll talk about that in a minute. He'll take a buyout there, and he can go sign anywhere. He's not coming back here because he's not going to play here. He wants to go somewhere that he can play, and for that reason, because some people are like, oh, man, look at this. Oh, LeBron, what's he going to think about this? He thinks his boy wants to play basketball is what it is. But the Cavs clear out. They made a deal. Raheem Christmas the other day picked up a draft pick, and then That enabled them to put this together. Couple of second-round picks a few years from now, and the Mike Miller contract and the Brendan Haywood contract heads out, and the Cavaliers pick up a 10.3 and a 2.5, I believe, $1 million trade exception, which they can add together, split it up into little pieces. They can make a couple of multiple trades out of it, or they could simply take on one large salary difference. That's what they used this year, or this past season, to get Mozgov in. So that'll come in handy later. They weren't able to do anything else. The key was doing that, because if they didn't get something done by Friday, there was nothing you could do. So they were at least able to move the limited assets that they have and basically punt for 6 months and set themselves up with the ability to go for some kind of a bigger score when you get into the new basketball season. Let's talk about all of that and more. First, Dan Wismar joins us next. Then Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. But first, we've got to get you caught up with the news. Don't go anywhere. We'll take a break, get some news, come back, and Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland is in the house. Coming up next, here on The Fix after the news.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into...
The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
It's an addiction. The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
American Revolution Wrestling presents Arena Warfare. Sunday, August 2nd at the Hara Arena in Dayton. Come enjoy a live professional wrestling event featuring appearances by Hall of Famers Bret, the Hitman Hart, and Lita. In-ring action featuring The Franchise, Shane Douglas, Vader, Rhino, the FBI, and more. Tickets starting at $15 with VIP tickets including a special early access meet and greet with the star. Arena Warfare. August 2nd at the Hara Arena. For more info to purchase tickets, visit AMREVWrestling.com.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com. Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Signs and Ship, the official printing source of the Sports Fix. Locations in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida. Find out more at signsandship.com.
News break.
I'm Christine Lisi. Right now, will lefty David Price be on his way out of Detroit by Friday's 4 Eastern baseball trade deadline? That remains to be seen, but Price's agent not too optimistic about him staying with the Tigers. Bo McInnes told MLB Network Radio he thinks Detroit will wait until Thursday or Friday before making a decision on Price. The Dodgers and Rangers have emerged as the favorites to land Phillies ace Cole Hamels, according to ESPN's Jason Starr. The Phils, meantime, continue to discuss Hamels with at least 4 other teams: Cubs, Yankees, Giants, Red Sox. But those clubs are said to have had more trouble matching up on a potential deal than the Dodgers or Rangers. TribLive.com reporting the Pirates are looking at the Red Sox' Shane Victorino and Mike Napoli as trade targets. GM Neil Huntington said Pittsburgh would still like to add pieces even after the acquisition of third baseman Aramis Ramirez. As Patriots QB Tom Brady awaits a decision on the appeal of his 4-game Deflategate suspension, the NFL has adopted new procedures for inspection of football inflation. Pre-game pressure readings will now be documented, and there'll be random halftime and post-game rechecks.
Hurry into Subway today for the new turkey and bacon guacamole. As if tender sliced turkey breast and crispy bacon weren't delicious enough, adding new Subway guacamole takes it to a whole new level. You gotta try it. Subway. Eat fresh.
Hey everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to The Sports Fix.
If this was pro wrestling, that would be the Indians' theme music right about now, because this thing is definitely going down the chute the wrong way. Welcome back into the Sports Fix. J-Rocc back with you. My man Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan and Everybody Hates Cleveland on the hotline, getting ready to join me. Thank you guys for kicking it back in with us as we get rolling here on a Monday afternoon. Phone lines not open because Dan's on them, but you can get through. And of course, I didn't even go through my introduction at the beginning. I just rolled right on through into the thing. Indians kind of just the kick in the gut and started there. It took the show the wrong way. Welcome in, you guys, to the Sports Fix. For those of you tuning in for the first time or long time across the Sports Fix radio network, I am your host, the Big Daddy on the microphone. Wow, this might be a record. I'm 24 minutes into the show, man. Before, if you're new, you're just like, why am I listening to this guy? Who is he? J-Rocc, Jerry Myers, call me what you will. I'm happy to be here. Happy to have you here with me as usual. Whether you're listening live, tune in, Spreaker, Mixler, the website, thesportsfix.net. Maybe you're one of the thousands listening around the world on digital delay on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, all of the different places that you do the thing, that you get your fix. Thank you so much. As I said, phone's not open right now. Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at thesportsfixcle. Email us, thesportsfix@aol.com. As I mentioned, by the way, we were talking about the Cavs coming out of the break there, and the Cavs re-signed Della Vedova, put another piece back in the fold, a $1.2 million deal there, right around where it needed to be, because it's already going to be triple what it is anyway. Like, that's going to cost them almost $4 million as it is. But if it had been the other, they were talking more upwards of 2, then it would have been nearly $6-8 million. He could have hurt him on the luxury tax. So that brings that down a little bit. Another piece in the fold. Let's talk about that with Dan. You guys keep the conversation rolling. I'm going to the phones because I'm tired of talking to myself as soon as I decide to unmute him. There we go. Dan Wismar, my friend. How you doing this afternoon?
J-Rocc, I'm doing great. It's good to be back with you. It's been about 12 days since we talked. I miss talking to you. A lot to catch up on.
Yeah, absolutely. Has it really? Yeah, it has, man. Wow. And we're about to do that again because, well, no, it won't be that long, but it'll be a week because I'm out next Monday. But it has been that long. I didn't even realize that. For some reason, I thought we only missed one last week, but you are absolutely right.
Yeah, no, we missed Monday and Wednesday last week. Monday
absolutely.
was my issue, but other than that, we talked about the Tribe almost a month ago, Jerry, and I guess we can start there, right?
No, why? Why are we starting there, man?
Because they're circling the drain. No, that's right. If you want to go
that's
somewhere
fine.
else first,
I mean, if you want to, You saw more of it this weekend than I did. I just thought we could go in a more positive direction, and then we could circle back, because when we're done, Mike's joining us, and then we're just going in that Indians direction. And I mean, it's frustrating, man. This is not just a bad season where you're going, oh, well, another bad Indian season. This should not be like this, has no reason or no excuse to be like this, man. And like I said, I don't know if you heard me, but driving in last night, that big red lit up billboard on the side of the road that just had 3 giant words on it just kicked me right in the gut coming off of this sweep this weekend. Dollar Dog Night. That was all the thing said, and in small letters underneath it said Tuesday. That's it. Not who they're playing. It's the freaking Royals coming in. I mean, we're not even putting a matchup. We're just advertising Dollar Dog Night. Can you put up a white flag any more than that?
Well, Jerry, we talk about it. In politics, they talk about low-information voters. In baseball, you talk about casual fans, and it's sort of the same cohort, if you will. Not the, super attentive, hang on every game kind of fan like you and me, but the fans who come out because they're giving away free stuff, whether it's a Sandy Alomar jersey or whether it's a hot dog for $1 or whether it's free fireworks. That's what gets the numbers out to the ballpark. And, we need those fans. Every team needs those fans, and it's not a slight on them, but, we shouldn't be surprised when they target their advertising that way.
Well, hold on, though. If that's the case, are the baseball fans not coming anymore? Because somebody's not coming to these games. Are we getting the casual fans that want free stuff? I mean, does it all only add up to 20,000? Is that it? Can we, at best, only get 20,000 people to go to a baseball game now? I mean, even if we're giving away everything in the building?
When you're playing baseball like they're playing baseball, I guess that is about it.
Yeah.
One thing, Jerry, I wanted to mention to you, and I think it might be news to you, at least in part. The layout of the lower bowl there at Progressive Field, where they've got the lower bowl and then the walkway behind that, and then back behind that walkway, there's the little mini boxes that are tucked up underneath the overhang of the upper deck, and they're about 6 rows deep, and they go all the way from left field all the way around to where the club seats start on the first base side. So that group of sections underneath the overhang, the 200 level sections, 200 numbered sections are, like I said, 6 or 7 rows deep underneath that overhang. I've sat in those sections, 159 or 259, 262 for every season since 1994, when a group of guys that I'm associated with bought season tickets there. And we've had season tickets in those sections right on third base for 21 years now, 22. We got a message the other day from the Cleveland Indians that we're not going to be able to have those seats next year. Why? Because they're being torn out. They're going to be gone. That whole 200 section behind the walkway is going to be converted as part of a renovation project to put in essentially, I guess, what amounts to the corner with better seats. In other words, a similar setup to tables, bars, food options, amenities for the season ticket holder, presumably, to get them closer to the field.
Really?
And being able to sit. So that's a renovation project that's in the works for this coming off season. The seats where I've been for 22 years are no longer going to be available to me. They basically called us and said, hey, you might want to look for some other seats somewhere else because your seats are gone. Wow. And I just thought that was interesting. When did you find that out? Just last week, middle of the week. Okay. They called a buddy of mine who is the account holder by name, and my name's not on the season ticket account, but I've been in this group since 1994, splitting tickets with him and 3, 4, 5 other guys, and taking, 12 to 15, 16 games a year. So we've been there all that time. Those seats are going to be gone. All that. My understanding is the entire 200 level is going to be wiped out and replaced with something.
Like
bars,
a corner?
Tables, something along the lines of what they've done out in right field with the corner.
Wow.
And of course, to sit there now is going to be way more than the ticket price that I've been spending for the last few years. And we have a deep discount there, understand. I only pay about $22 per seat per game. And then if you go online to buy a ticket in that same section, it's going to cost you $50-$60 even today.
Yeah.
They give the season ticket holder a pretty deep discount, especially people that have been there since the beginning.
I would hope.
But I just thought it was interesting to say this is the direction they're going.
You know what?
I don't think it's going to help attendance. I think it may, in fact, hurt it. You're alienating, certainly, a fan like me that's been paying X for a ticket. Now it's going to be probably 2X.
Let's say you were on the fence.
In or around the same place next year. I was interesting, and I thought you might be interested to know that.
Yeah, think about it. Think about fans that are on the fence, and maybe the only thing in Dan's section that keeps them there are the guys that have been doing it forever, and they're like, well, I can't give up my tickets, and now they got to move. That may be the impetus that they need to go, you know what? I'm going to get one of those Cavs packages and get one of those 20-game Cavs packages or something, or whatever, just something else.
And we love the seats here because, first of all, they're undercover, and there's very few seats in that whole stadium that have you out of the rain and sun. So we like having a roof overhead, the overhang of the upper deck there that covers you. And everybody's looking at us when it's raining, and they're piling up out of that lower bowl to get out of the rain and looking at us going, how'd you get those seats?
Yeah, Bruce
we like them there. But, again, no more. And whether it's a good move or a bad move, I don't even know exactly what's planned for that space. They have limited space to go back deeper than that because I know right behind us they've got basically the kitchen area where the food is prepared and things and concessions and things that are out in the concourse that limit how far back they can't not like they can knock out a wall and expand the depth of those sections. So presumably they're just going to put in some different kind of seating tables and bars and things like that.
Well, you know
amenities,
what, though?
they call them.
Yeah, usually.
But anyway, I just wanted to bring it up because I think it's an indication. This is what they think they need more of. Let's do the corner here behind home plate where we can give probably some high-end, wealthier, let's put it bluntly, some wealthier season ticket holders that can afford a more expensive ticket. Let's put those amenities that we have out in the corner right here closer to home plate, basically the corner with better seats.
Well, that's exactly what they're doing. You see, here's the thing, is it makes total sense. If you look at what the Browns did, too, usually when teams make readjustments to their ballpark and they don't scrap it, they renovate, usually they'll do them in two phases. And the first phase is all the stuff that the casual fan will enjoy and talk about and ooh and ah. And usually phase two is the big money stuff for the club because those are – you can't start out by hooking up the club section and hooking up the more expensive sections with better amenities because then people go, oh, hey, look at them. They're forgetting about – so you do it in reverse. So the Browns just did that. This past offseason, there hasn't been all the talk about all the changes. There's been a lot of changes at the stadium, but these are changes for the club seats and the different levels and giving them the different things. A lot more of the making money changes for the Browns were made this year, and that's why they weren't talked about as much because they weren't the ones that were for everybody. This could be part of that too. I see Bruce just made me a little note here, said it's sections 225 to 260 over there on that side that they're taking out, and that's again, that's just amazing to me here. And I mean, amazing is one good word. I mean, I don't know if I want to say thick-headed, but it just appears to me that there is, and it's been this way for a long time, and regardless, you get excited about the product on the field when it comes together. But in general, I would say disconnect maybe is one of the best words I can use between the Indians and their front office and their ownership and the fan base and everybody else. I mean, it's amazing to me. And I'm not even going to try to do the Browns and Indians. I get the football, baseball thing. But as badly as that Browns team beats their fan base over the head with bad things over the years, it can't just be that people love football that keeps them coming back, because I love a lot of things that if they kept kicking me in the face, eventually I would stop coming back. So how have the Indians kicked their fan base in the face enough to where these guys are like, I'm not coming back? Because clearly there is a disconnect between what the ownership and the front office thinks is important and what the fan base thinks is important.
Yeah, you're right. And I suppose, the fans might be just as upset if their 22-year-old ballpark started sliding down the list of Major League ballparks in terms of facilities and amenities and how they're rated as a place to see a baseball game, et cetera.
That. I'm
and
referring
so,
to the product
you're
on
glad
the
that
field.
they're investing in their stadium. I just think the disconnect, I think, is absolutely a great word for it, because, we're taking this little cohort of fans that we have, the let's call it the wealthy season ticket holder, the season ticket holder that won't mind if their seat is double the price next year that it was this year, and you absolutely know that there's going to be price increases associated with all this renovation in order to sit in these nice new amenities, what the team thinks they need to do, presumably to help attendance. Maybe they feel the only way they're going to get more revenue is to soak the people that are already coming.
Let me jump in. Let me jump in
there.
there.
About the money.
Let me jump in there,
than
Dan,
it is
real
to
quick.
put 10,000 more people in the seats every game.
Before you go in a different direction, Dan, I want to jump on what you just said right there, because that is what I was just going to ask you next, and I don't want to lose that. That's the mentality it looks like to me is that you have decided we can't regrow the fan base and add revenue with additional fans. So how can we get more revenue out of the fans that we have? And again, that's running up the right flag and just saying, hey, you know what? We're not even going to try to attract. We've just decided, they don't want to come watch baseball. But what we're going to do is soak as much juice out of the ones that are there as we can and try to turn a $20 spender into a $40 spender or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right. And, my thinking has always been, and I don't want to rehash my whole thing about ticket sales, but so I won't. But my belief is that there are, there's lots of corporations that, since the economy went south and even just Cleveland's decline as a corporate center, have left town and probably no longer, buy blocks of seats as a corporation to give to their customers or their employees or whatever. Right. But there are hundreds, if not thousands, of small businesses who might be talked into buying 4 tickets, 4 seats somewhere in the stadium to give to their customers, give to their best customers, reward their best customers and their good employees with seats to the ball game. I still think that's a thing that could be marketed. I don't see that being marketed by the team. And I think most of the small businesses don't want to buy a suite, a loge, a box. Maybe all they can afford is 4 season tickets, a few $1,000s out of their company's budget to have this entertainment option for good customers and for stellar employees to benefit from. I just don't see that kind of effort going on to sell that stuff, and it's all at the high end. So anyway, it's just a difference of opinion. I'm sure they've got research and guys that they pay way more money than I make just to make those kinds of decisions for them and do that kind of research for them. But I think their approach, before the fact, before I see how it works or if it works, it seems to me misguided.
Yeah, everything they're doing lately. See, I mean, again, we can beat this thing till it's blue in the face. I don't know what to say. Attendance at the end of the day would be better if the product on the field was consistent. And I just feel that 2013, 14, 15, and it's going to carry over into 16. I can already see this coming because you still have the overhanging issues that bothered this payroll that are still going to be there next year. That 4 years should have been so much better than it. I mean, what started in 2013 truly to me has not lived up to what it could have been. And I again go back to what I said at the beginning of the show. Okay, Swisher and Bourne, you want to look at that dead $30 million. I'm willing to give a small market Moneyball team 2 years of selling the fan base that they have to deal with this crappy contract. Because I do understand that is real. You don't sign it and right away dump it and say, oh, we're going to pay this guy $70 million to go away. But I have a very big problem in years 3 and 4 of looking at that fan base and going, no, hey, it's okay. Our prospects are good enough to win with the lowest payroll in the history of baseball when you take those 2 guys off the top, because that's what the Indians, for all intents and purposes, are trying to do. They are trying to beat baseball with the smallest payroll in the history of baseball. It was $57 million if you took those guys off or something like that. And that, to me, is where you're slapping the fans in the face. I get it, you made a mistake. I'm not mad about that. I'm not mad that you made a mistake and signed the wrong guys. Teams screw up. I'm mad about the fact that now here in year 3, this season that $30 million, let me tell you, you put $30 million worth of better offense on this Indians team, and they have a shot at the World Series with the type of pitching that they have. They have the shot to be the team that we thought they could have been. I dare any of you to fantasy spend $30 million and not be able to make this team better. Same thing applies next year and then some, because it gets a little bit trickier when the guys get pay raises from this year's team. So now that's where I can get mad at the ownership, because now you're saying, hey, we screwed up and you're just going to have to deal with it, and hopefully you like dollar dogs for the next 2 years, because we're not going to do anything until these contracts fall off the books. Or we're going to trade a bunch of our guys now so that we can still have a payroll next season, and then the whole core falls apart because now we're dumping Carrasco for prospect. Who in the hell was Toronto going to give the Indians to make it worth parting with Carlos Carrasco anyway? Because I didn't hear the details, but I've got some people sending me messages saying, oh, they almost did this and a near trade that. Who in the world were you going to get from Toronto to make it worth parting with that contract?
Yeah, you're right. I was just going to ask you about that, and if you heard about that, because one thing that you don't want to see this team do is break up the pitching that is the core of the team. I mean, they say there's 3 aspects of baseball: pitching, right? And presumably you have that. Although this past weekend you had some clunker starts by several of those guys, including Kluber and Carrasco. Salazar really is the only guy that gave you a quality start in this series. But, that's an isolated incident. You got to believe that your starting rotation intact is the strength of the team, and it's what everyone else covets from you. That's why they're banging on your door asking you about Carlos Carrasco. So you've got to keep that intact. And, the problem with this team has been the inability to draft and develop bats. And that goes back many years. And the same is true now. So maybe you've got some of those guys down in the system. Time will tell, but you can't mortgage what you've got, which is a strong pitching staff right now. And they're young and they're under team control. And so you just got to help the team elsewhere. But I agree with you 100%, Jerry, about going through another season of hand-wringing and our hands are tied behind our back because we're got this millstone of the Swisher and the Bourne contract hanging around our neck. That might be an excuse for 2015, but it sure isn't an excuse for next year. No. And the payroll, which is $87 million. Take away that $28 million for those 2, dead weights, and you're right. You've got an unacceptable payroll of players that are actually producing for you. And the fans shouldn't be expected to put up with that for another season.
I mean, seriously, man. I mean, think about that. And think about the absurdity of it is that they were on the cover of Sports Illustrated with effectively less than a $60 million payroll is what teams do when they're trying to lose as many games as possible, when they want to lose 111 games and they just want to scrap it all, when they want to do what some of these teams like the Astros have done, the Pirates, these different teams in their low days or whatever. You know what I mean? That's what you do. You go out there with a $57 million payroll and you lose 107 games. And the Indians, with that same payroll, were on the cover of Sports Illustrated and go into the World Series. I mean, that speaks to me to the talent of the rest of the 23 guys that you're going with, or at least the potential of most of it. I know it's not, there's other pieces that aren't helping either, but you would have a lot more bites at the apple with that extra $30 million.
Well, you're right, and I read again this morning that they had the dreaded team meeting. After the game yesterday, you can only have so many team meetings, and it's a lot of head scratching, and Tito with the head scratching, and I don't know, and sort of half claiming responsibility and half, deflecting it. But we're better than this. Well, no, we're not.
You know what?
And,
Terry Francona today or yesterday, let me ask you, do you think, man, he sounded self-defeating to me. That little line that he made about how he's got to get that defeatist mindset out of them or he'll die trying, that's his way of saying, I know that my job is on the line here. And what I find funny about that is I don't believe this front office would fire him because of their mutual relationships, but and I don't want it, but I like Terry Francona. I mean, we've talked about that before, but what a dynamic there is there too, because start at the top. If you're the Dolans and you're not going to blame yourself, which they're not, okay, who are you blaming? Is this your front office's fault? Is this your manager's fault? Is this the player's fault? Is it the fans' fault because they don't come to the building and support your product? I'm curious, in the offseason, who's going to take the brunt for this season and its disappointment?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that when Terry Francona leaves the Cleveland Indians, it will be voluntarily and will be using his physical situation as the justification for it. We know that those physical issues are real. We know that it's difficult for Francona to deal with the grind of the travel and 162 games, and it's just a matter really at this point, and he's hinted at it before, how long he's going to want to do this, and it's probably not long. It's probably not more than another year or two at the most. Maybe this is it. Maybe at the end of the season he will say, hey, this is too much for me. But I think you're right that the symbiotic relationship between him and the Shapiro-Antonetti duo is such that they can't fire him because they'll basically be, firing themselves or admitting that they have failed in their jobs as well. So, there are lots of people around this town that think that it's time for Shapiro and Antonetti to go because there's been no accountability for this disappointment. And, the program that they supposedly had in place, the core and all that, and we can always see a little bit of, light at the end of the tunnel. We see the pitching staff that they put together. And but again, on balance, you have to say that the Shapiro-Antonetti-Francona formula is failing where we had high hopes.
And see, here's my thing too, and I go more with the front office than just Terry Francona there, and that's a good way of looking at him getting out. And this season may be rough enough that at the end he may use that as the reason to slide right out. But it's almost, since we brought up the Browns earlier, it is almost the opposite of what the Browns have done. The Browns have changed the thing every other season, you got to go before anybody can take hold. Here, it's the opposite, and it is you had a plan. Matter of fact, this is round 2 here. You've had a plan, you put it into effect, you played it out you drafted who you wanted, developed who you wanted, cleared out the decks, went through some bad seasons, did the whole rebuild thing, and this was your win. Like, I do believe that once a front office has been given the opportunity to do their plan and see it through, and we're now on the back end, at that point, then it is fair to judge them on that, because and it's almost like, whereas the Browns cut cords too quick and never let any consistency go in, you're at the back end of that with the Indians, where you're almost now, unless you expect some miracle change to happen either now or next season, you're almost now to the point where you're at that doing the same thing over and over. And now is where it feels like this is the right time for a fresh set of eyes and a fresh set of hands to work with this Indians roster and try to approach it a different way. Even if you're still working on a budget, it just seems like now it really seems fair to make a change, because you've given plenty of opportunity here, much more than many other places would have. A lot of stability has been in the front office of this Indians team since the Dolans bought the team.
You're right, and I think around baseball, the franchise is still looked at as a positive model of how to do things, and with the stability and with the now they have obviously done quite a bit with building up the farm system and from a few years ago, but you're right. At some point, there has to be accountability. We've lamented the lack of accountability with this team from the front office right down to ticket sales department or whatever else. No one ever seems to lose their job for doing badly. You're right. I think the fan base has got to be just about up to their nostrils with it, and just ready to say, enough, and just I'm not gonna keep doing this anymore. Some people obviously, we now see that the mid '90s bump, the sleeping giant theory, and everything else, and how everything came together at one time, that was flukish, or it was temporal. At least it was something that, because you alienated a whole generation or two of baseball fans by sucking for 35 years, now those people are adults and they're not Indians fans, and you're back down to the level where you were before, and that mid '90s rush is a blip on the radar screen. It was not a trend. It was not a new beginning. It was a blip.
Man, I mean, really hard to argue with that when you see the way it's come on the back end. Although, my gut still says, though, obviously, we're sitting in the depths of it. And you almost wonder, too, I still, and this is one you can't, you can change the front office. You can't change the ownership anywhere near as easily, man. But I do wonder, and I've said this for years. I've said this for like 10 years. I'm curious if the Indians do ever change hands as far as ownership. And I actually think that comes sooner than some people may think. I think that within 5 years we may see new ownership here I think a lot of the moves that they're making strike me as a team getting its books together to sell the team. They're sprucing up all of their assets while spending minimal money on the outtake. Everything that they're doing looks to me like a team that's sprucing up the house for people to come take a walk through and try to sell this thing. And I could be way wrong about that. But when they do,
well, it's interesting
hands,
that you say that, because I was just going to say it's interesting that you say that, because it's not something that has been remarked upon much in media or in fan circles that I run in. So it's a good take.
I'm just curious, it's like, hey, man, it just they're building up the assets there, and they're not exactly breaking. They never have broke the bank, but it just I don't know. Some things, we'll see how it works out. But I do think they will eventually here move that team, and I'm just curious whenever they do, if it's 5 years, 10 years from now, whenever. I think there's going to be an uptick. I literally believe 10-20% of the fan base, that alone makes them come back out to the ballpark, that they have truly turned it off because they are sick. And part of it is the length of the baseball season. They spent a couple years getting sucked in at first after the run of the 90s, maybe, where they go through a long season and then, you get the rug pulled out from under you, and then you see them start trading everybody, and you go, you know what? And I think a lot of people turned off the Dolans, and just as long as they own the team, and it's not everybody, but I believe it's a good 20% of this fan base, man, that just won't come back until somebody else runs this team.
That might be, and I think a lot of that sentiment is underinformed or ill-advised or whatever you want to call it, or not appreciative of all the subtleties and nuances that are running a baseball team. After all, the guy just signs checks, and you've got baseball people presumably running things. And so, I think certainly the front office, Shapiro, Antonetti, a lot more credit and blame for whatever happens on the baseball field. But obviously the guy with the purse strings is important too. And you're right that there are a lot of fans. You hear it all the time. The Dolans are cheap, and it's a cliche anymore. And a lot of times, there's nothing the Dolans can do. There's no millions, tens of millions that the Dolans can throw down the toilet to convince fans otherwise that they won't spend money, as opposed to they're just unable or unwilling to spend money smartly, to convince them otherwise. So, you're right. There may be that uptick just from the people who don't want to listen to any of the details. They're convinced, and no facts are going to change their mind. But certainly there's that element out there.
You're listening to the Sports Fix. J-Rocc and Dan Wismar here. Man, we've done messed around, and we're going to turn this whole show into the. I'm not trying to be depressed.
And we don't want to
Monday,
do that,
man.
Jerry. Let's go back to the Oasis, in the desert of Ohio sports, and talk some Buckeyes.
We can go all different directions, man. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit of Buckeyes real quick here. I was joking earlier. I said, what's up with these Buckeye quarterbacks, man? You got Terrell Pryor. You sent me those pics a couple weeks ago of him all shredded, and he's out there at the Randy Moss camp. He is, I will say this, it's a shot in the dark, but I mean, that guy is definitely throwing himself into it. He's not just giving a token effort to going out there for the Browns at wide receiver, but his compatriots over there. What's up with these Buckeye quarterbacks going to the wide receiver? JK and I talked a little bit about it on Friday. He doesn't expect much out of it, but Braxton confirms that he's going to do the wide receiver H-back thing here and takes himself out of the equation there, which a lot of people kind of thought was the only way that would really work out there. But what are your thoughts on that? Either one of them, really, but because Pryor's going at it. But, yeah, what do you expect to see out of Braxton Miller there? I mean, obviously, they're all going to play quarterback at some point this year. J.K. said, hey, I expect they may all play, not necessarily Braxton every game, but you may see him every game. It may be like a high school game. You know, you may see somebody play the first half, and then somebody else will come in and play the third quarter. Somebody else will tinker around here and there because they're going to be so good offensively anyway that there'll be a lot of opportunities to get everybody some time.
Well, you're right. And first of all, it simplifies the quarterback decision from 3 down to 2, obviously. But although I would bet my house that sometime in the Virginia Tech game, the Braxton Miller will take a snap from center. I don't think there's any doubt about the fact that he's going to be a guy that they will use in a wildcat kind of formation to run. Their counter trade is one of their favorite plays, and they ran it with him before when he was starting quarterback, and they'll run it with him again. They run it with all their QBs, but I know that Braxton will take a couple of snaps. But first of all, he just makes an already scary offense that much scarier. There's nothing wrong with the guy's legs, you know that. And Meyer said he was getting people were getting a little bit ahead of themselves or whatever, because he said he hasn't caught one pass yet for Ohio State, and yeah, he's right about that. But he's also the 2-time Big Ten Player of the Year, and he's a very special athlete. I think it was an unselfish move for him. At the same time, I think he also just got good advice. You're not going to be an NFL quarterback, Braxton. You might as well give the NFL scouts a year's worth of film to watch on you as a wide receiver, as opposed to doing what Denard Robinson, for example, tried to do, which is play quarterback all the way through his college career and then compete as a wide receiver at a combine. And obviously he's on the Jacksonville roster now as a wide receiver, but they didn't have a look at him as a wide receiver for his senior year of college. And I think Braxton will certainly benefit by that. Most NFL scouts I've seen comment on it have agreed that it's a smart move for him long-term for his NFL earnings. Might put him in a 3rd, 4th round category right now, and with a big season, he could obviously vault up there. He's got great size for an NFL wideout at 6'2", 215. With the moves and the speed and the elusiveness he has at 6'2", 215. The only question is his durability, and that's what we're going to find out about once we start playing and he starts taking hits. Probably take fewer hits as a wide receiver though than he did at quarterback, and so you'd have to look at it that way. But I think as much as anything, it helps Urban Meyer, simplify his decision on who's the guy at quarterback. But I would also think that, and I would bet this again, that both J.T. Barrett and Carter, the very first game, probably in the first half of the first game. I don't think this is going to be a situation where, Meyer buys into this. If you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any quarterbacks, because Urban Meyer, of all people, has a track record of winning a national championship with Chris Leak and Tim Tebow both taking snaps from center. So it's not like he's never done this before with one quick guy and one big, strong guy, alternating at quarterback based on the situation.
That's what makes it awesome to me, is that they're contrasting skill sets there, man. And so you really, You have two completely, because like you said, some people use that expression, if you've got two, you have none, or you've got two really, really good ones, but they have completely different skill sets and that can kill you either way, and that is a heck of an advantage, and that's where playing them both every week will pay off in the back half. When you get to, let's potentially look ahead to playoffs where you don't look at the schedule, you don't know who it's going to be, depending on your matchups, man, you've got the ability to go with the guy that can move and get out of the pocket a little bit and do that, as JT Barrett is such a threat to do, or you got the guy who can beat him downfield if you're playing a team that is weaker in the backside. There's so many different options there, and I like it, and that's why I can see that. And as you said, plus, Braxton Miller, man, there's so many different options that brings in there to that too. An offense that's already just richly filled with playmakers all the way around. You never have trouble finding room for another playmaker out there on the field, for sure, man. And I brought up Pryor. You were the one that a couple of weeks ago tipped me off to them pick. You said, look at this ripped Terrell Pryor, man. He was out there with a 12-pack and all that. And what do you think, man? There's a lot of talk that he has really taken that potential switch, whatever, of wide receiver seriously. I mean, it's very rare for a guy in career. I mean, come on, in career in the NFL to make that change. We're not even talking about coming out of college and making that change. But you and I don't think either one of us gave really big odds on that. But I'm not going to lie. I think I would increase those odds after seeing the work that he's putting in. Hey, Michael Bourne ran with the sprinter, so that doesn't mean that the work pays off. But he is putting the work in to come into camp.
Yeah, no doubt. And you sort of have mixed feelings about the company he's keeping.
Yeah, Josh Gordon.
You could probably hang out with a couple other better guys than Josh Gordon and Randy Moss.
I saw that. I said, "Oh man, what is he getting himself into?"
In terms of your reputation, but at the same time, it seems like Moss has really taken him under his wing, and he's teaching him some of the things that he's going to need. Mary Kay had a nice article about it the other day. He basically said, "Hey, he is he's teaching him what he doesn't know and what he'll need to know and what he'll need to do." We know this. As weak and lame, however you want to call it, as a Browns wide receiver core has been the last few years, they've upgraded it with some veterans. Obviously, you start counting. If you keep 5 receivers, the Browns already have 5 that they're going to keep, and Bo and Hartline and probably Taylor Mailey, the draft choice, Hawkins and Gabriel. So there's 5 guys. That's not even counting the Marlon Moore that they'd like to keep, or a couple other guys that are marginal. I don't know. Do NFL teams keep 6 wideouts? Because Pryor would be the 6th.
Bottom line is we don't
know whether he'll make it as the wide receiver.
6 is the minimum. I think you have to keep 6. I would think.
Yeah. Okay. So he would be the 6th guy if their draft choice Taylor Mailey turns out to be a keeper, and he better
Vince
because
Mailey.
he's a 3rd or 4th round pick. They're committed to him making the team.
Well, you know what, though? He may not necessarily be ready to go off the bat. They say he will. We'll find out here in a little bit.
You're right. He does have a hand surgery or something.
Yeah, he had the thumb surgery.
But thumb or something. But anyway, if Pryor doesn't make it, it won't be because he hasn't worked at it. It won't be because he's in bad shape. Now, I always thought he played a little soft at Ohio State in terms of the body. We would see him. I did after post-game interviews with him in the locker room and everything. So and he played it presumably at 6'6", 240 in college. Boy, that picture the other day, he doesn't look like he weighs more than 225. He looked small compared to the body type that we saw on him as a college player. So he's clearly firmed everything up. Anybody that hasn't seen that picture doesn't know what we're talking about. But talk about your 6-pack. He had a he's in, on the field production at wide receiver. If he can't catch the ball, he can't catch the ball. And I question sometimes whether he has the lateral moves and elusiveness and stuff that a wide receiver needs. He certainly has the straight line speed, but he's never really shown me a whole lot of shake in terms of moves, and that's what leaves me still somewhat skeptical about it. But do I want him to succeed? Absolutely. I'd love to see another big 6'5", 230 wide receiver sprinting down the field. He could be a real weapon if he can, master the skill set.
Yeah, because part of me wonders how, and I just think of it from the end of the mental aspect. This is a guy that was on the other end of the string. He was, in the quarterback spot. So he understands the mind and the thought process and the quick thinking process that you do as a quarterback. I don't know. Part of me wonders that if he physically can handle the cutting, the ins and outs, getting the routes down like you were talking about, that maybe the mental part of it may help him, because not every wide receivers have not played quarterback. You know what I mean? And so
true. And he also has played quarterback for John DeFilippo.
Right, and at the NFL level,
which is
not just at college.
Not an insignificant little detail here.
Right.
Filippo, he's on the roster because of John DeFilippo, knowing him, liking him, bringing him in, thinking he could help this team, and so presumably would be committed to making it work or incorporating him into it. So there's a relationship there, and at least some kind of synergy there, and he knows the offense that DeFilippo is bringing in.
And there's the other point is, here's to me a reason why I think if Terrell Pryor shows anything he makes this team is it allows you. The Browns do not like to carry 3 quarterbacks for the active game. No team can really afford that for the most part in today's era. So a lot of times what was the last year when they were down to would have went to the emergency quarterback? Sometimes it's like one of your wide receivers. I think Benjamin might have been the backup quarterback for a game last year. You know what I mean? The emergency quarterback.
Yeah, the emergency quarterback. And certainly Pryor could be that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That gives you at least a safety valve of, hey, we've always got, that multiple position thing. But I think with the DeFilippo connection, and I'm just interested to see if it's got better odds to fail than it does to succeed. But I'm very curious if he perhaps uses that. I don't know. I'm curious to see, because you don't see this kind of transition very much. And like I said too, it's not just a guy going from college quarterback to a skill position in the NFL, because that you see from time to time. But he was an NFL quarterback like literally a season ago, and I mean, so he's played at that level, and so it won't be trying to make the big jump up and try to make the position change. I'm very curious about it. More than likely it fails, but we'll find out about that. Very, very interesting.
Right. The other aspect to it is, will he be a willing and or effective blocker? Pryor never had a reputation for being a guy that likes to mix it up a lot in the trenches, and so we'll see if he can even master that part of it, or he can even do an adequate job at
That's
that.
That's going to be huge.
That's going to be huge. Having him out there.
You talked about which 5 or 6 wide receivers do the Browns pick. In general, it's going to be the ones that block the best, because they're going to be such a run-heavy offense, I believe, that you're definitely going to need to make sure, you don't want to have last year, or two, when you have Jordan Cameron, you had to kind of bring a second tight end to beef up the blocking deficiencies, and you can't have that in the wide receiver position. You're right. That is on top of learning the position, getting in there and making those blocks downfield as a wide receiver. Those are every bit as key, and we'll see if he can do that. But it'll be very interesting too. Hey, a little bit on the Cavaliers here. What did you think? I have to admit, I know a lot of people right now don't see perhaps the good in what they did. I do. I wasn't sure if they were going to be able to move the Haywood contract, because now teams knew they were up against it. And I like it. I hate that they had to. I really thought I wanted to see Christmas come to camp, just because I thought him and Pointer both had a outside shot at being, the back end guys, not in the rotation, but on the bench, and then getting, a few minutes here and there. Hated that you had to sacrifice one now because you needed a second round pick, and now they've had to sacrifice they don't have a second round pick for about a decade, I think, now. But they did get that $13 million in trade exception, which I think will be key, because it will allow them to make a move without sending anything out here this season.
Yeah, and I think you were on it last week when you pointed out that really the Portland Trailblazers are about the only team that we could do this with, or the only team that was willing to do it. Basically, the Trailblazers say, that's like they're part of a paper transaction. Hey, Portland, will you do us this favor? Yep. Will you trade for these 2 guys and then cut them? And for your trouble, we'll throw in a couple of second rounders, is really what it comes down to.
Exactly.
And so that's what they did. And then Portland gets a couple second rounders out of the deal, including the better of our 2 that we had for 2017 or whatever. And they do you the favor of processing these 2 guys through their franchise, cutting them. And if the Cavs wanted to sign Mike Miller after the Trailblazers waive him, they're free to go ahead and do that, I suppose, if Miller wants to come back. Same with Haywood, if there was any interest there, which I guess is not.
That's the thing, and that's why that's what I was bringing up earlier. Is he's not just going to do that because there's no minutes here. That's why he's
right. Miller wants to play, and you know, good for him. I hope he lands someplace where he can play. Clearly, that's not
Cleveland.
here.
Yes, far away from Cleveland.
Words, it's just, you know, it's hard to fault a transaction because all it is just a paper move and clear some money and give yourself some flexibility for, like you said, 6 months from now when you might have some more options to make a move. You bought flexibility is what you did, and the Portland Trailblazers did your franchise a favor by being the vehicle by which you went about doing it. So that's really, you know, is about all I can say about that deal. Is you had limited options, limited trading partners, and the Trailblazers stepped up and did you a favor for a couple second-round picks.
Man, I'll tell you what, man, while we're talking about this real quick, keep an eye on the Heat. They are completely retooling. They were in luxury cap trouble or luxury tax trouble and salary cap trouble. I think they just moved Dragic, which they just picked him up at the trade deadline last year with Phoenix there. They moved. That was a big one. Didn't they just redo his deal or something? No, it was redone right before the trade or whatever, because otherwise they couldn't have. You can't trade a guy right after you redo his contract. But I'll tell you what, they pick up Delly too.
Jerry, I was going to say by far the more significant move was the Richard Jefferson acquisition.
I was going to ask you about that.
That's one that we're going to obviously see play out on the court. They needed a guy to spell LeBron and be a professional NBA player when LeBron is off the floor, and certainly you've made that move. And you know, you got to tip your hat to him for pulling that off, because even though he's a veteran, and I've expressed my feelings about signing 34, 35-year-olds, you know, this is not a guy who's going to have to take his NBA lumps, and you know, he's a guy that's going to be able to hit the ground and play like an NBA player when LeBron's taking a blow.
LeBron's last still had a good, you know, couple of years of effectiveness in him. He was even though he was up there in years. There's different kinds of guys at that level, and the ones that are the true pros. And that's nothing against Sean Marion, but I mean, I do expect more out of Jefferson than Marion as well, you know. So I like that.
Right.
They re-signed Delly here today, which is good, and Delly was smart. Delly was, you know, he could have monkeyed around and tried to get that extra $1 million or whatever, but the Cavs were like, hey, this is what we got. Do you want to be a part of this? And he signed that $1.2 million deal. And so pretty much to me, I mean, wouldn't you think you got wrap-up business with J.R. Smith there, and that would be the end of the offseason for the Cavaliers? I mean, they don't have a lot of flexibility otherwise.
Yeah, you're right. And you know, I think a lot of fans are sort of ambivalent about signing J.R. Smith. I maybe put me in that camp too, but you know, yeah, you're right. If they do sign him, that would presumably be it. And Delly is now your third string point guard.
But if you don't re-sign J.R. Smith, though, who do you get? Because to me, I mean, a lot of the better options in free agency were your graybeards like Jefferson or Tayshaun Prince or a couple of guys like that. You don't sign another older guy, right? I mean, clearly you would be looking for a shooter. J.R. Smith, if you're just looking for that role, J.R. Smith is the best guy to play the J.R. Smith role. But I think all the ball is completely in the Cavaliers' court. He's either going to I mean, you know what I mean? They're either going to take him or they'll move on to somebody else. But I would think he's spot. Dan, what are we doing on Wednesday, man? What are we going to talk about? We talk a little Buckeyes, talk a little Browns. We got previews for camp coming up. We talked a little bit. I'm curious whatever they're going to do here in the next couple of days. I don't know.
Well, you know, first of all, at the first of the month, that we'd know by the end of July whether they were buyers or sellers or where the season was going. And here we are on the verge of the end of July, and we know. So I don't know how much more there is to say about that. First of all, I got to say on here, I had my dates all twisted up. I was thinking the Browns started training camp way earlier because I was reading about something about the 16th of July, and then they were gonna start letting, they weren't gonna let the public, the fans in until the 30th. The fans in. I don't know how I got my dates all twisted around, but I was way off on that. And obviously they're starting third, and then on. Guys don't start camp till August 10th as their first workout. So players are coming in and they're working out, you know, on the side. Don't get going till the 10th. So I guess it'll be some Browns talk and maybe just some wrapping up the Tribe season, because it's almost that official time of year when the Browns take center stage.
We didn't ask for this. None of us, you guys didn't either, man. We'll deal with it together. Dan, great conversation. Well, we'll talk some more again later on this week, and hopefully I'll see you Saturday in person, man, in Avon. Hopefully you can get up there. And,
I'm gonna try to make it. I'm definitely gonna try to make it. So I'll catch up with you on that off the air.
All right, my man. Dan, you have a good one, and we'll talk later this week.
Okay, Jerry, thank you.
You got it. My man, Dan Wismar from Cleveland.com. Let's take a break and get back with Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. We'll talk. Hey, man, I'm going to make him talk some Cavs just so that this whole conversation isn't terrible. We'll talk Indy. Plenty more sports fix to come with Mike Brandenberry from DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com. No, they did not, but we're still going to talk to Mike when we come back next here on the Sports Fix.
To the Sports Fix. If you want to be my lover.
Guys, want to take just a second as we head into this break and remind you about the official business printing source of the Sports Fix, our friends at Signs and Ship. Signs and Ship, I'm telling you, Chris and Pam, they've taken care of me since day one, and they can do the same for you. Whether you're a small business that's already been established and you're looking to your business, or perhaps you've got an idea that you just know is going to be a great business and you need to figure out how to brand it and how to promote it and put it out there, Signs and Ship is the place for you. If you need a logo, they can create one for you. They have a fantastic graphic designer. Business cards, signs, banners, yard signs, mobile advertising, anything you can think of that you need to promote your business, they've got it at Signs and Ship. The best thing about them, too, is each of their locations, whether it's the home base here in Elyria, Ohio that I work with, or their spots in Virginia, Florida, and Pennsylvania, it's all local sourced. Very important to me because we all understand that small business is the lifeblood of the community. So check them out, signsandship.com, or call Chris and Pam today, 440-323-6060, the home office in Elyria, Ohio. Signs and Ship, quality printing at affordable prices.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more.
American Revolution Wrestling and the Lake Erie Crushers present Brawl at the Ballpark. Saturday, August 1st at All Pro Freight Stadium in Avon. Come enjoy a live professional wrestling event featuring Hall of Famers Bret the Hitman Hart, Lita, The Franchise, Shane Douglas, Vader, Rhino, the FBI, and more. VIP tickets include a special early access meet and greet with the stars. Brawl at the Ballpark, August 1st at All Pro Freight Stadium. For more info or to purchase tickets, visit amrevwrestling.com now.
In baseball, MLB has teamed up with Stand Up to Cancer. Because we believe that when we all stand up together, 41-5 history.
Now everybody's standing.
What a buzz in this building.
This is beyond a dream. Stand up with MLB at standuptocancer.org.
The Sports Fix is now available every day on the world's largest internet radio service, iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeartRadio app, subscribe to the show, and get your fix.
This is the Sports Fix. What is your name?
I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness or duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Dude, what do you want?
Well, it's this rug I have. It really tied the room together.
We are not a show to be swept under the rug. We are a show to be heard.
It's the Sports Fix.
Dig it. Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live. Thanks to my man Dan Wismar for being with us for the last nearly an hour there. Good conversation with him. Man, we ended up going down into the whole, man, we got pulled down into the Indians conversation, and we're going back into it again. Man, I thought I escaped the weekend unscathed, but silly me. Hey, you know what? If you guys had to suffer, I do too, and now we can all commiserate together. Mike, it ain't getting no easier. Mike Brandenberry is going to join us from didthetribewinlastnight.com, but I'm going to make him start out put a fisher in there, put a crack in there, and just kind of squeeze out a few moments before we dive into it. But let's talk about it because, as you know, this week, it's clear as day the direction that the Indians are going to head here. Talk a little Cavs and more. Mike Brandenberry is joining us. You guys, Facebook.com with us at The Sports Fix at AOL.com. I'm going to go to the phones here as soon as I get there we go. Let's find the volume button. Mike Brandenberry, didthetribewinlastnight.com. That is no ×4 at home over the weekend. And welcome back to the show. On that note, Mike Brandenberry, you don't go 0 for 4. You're here every time, baby, coming through in the clutch. What's up, my friend?
I'm good, Jerry. How are you? I'm coming off of a very nice weekend. Unfortunately, my nice weekend was not impacted by the Indians in any way. I heard you mention the Cavs. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about the Cavs. According to the Indians' Twitter handle, it's July, and we should be talking baseball. So I think, maybe we should just go directly to the team that they've asked us they want.
I don't know that I get that. You know what? It fits right into the word that I just used with Dan Wismar before you joined us here, the disconnect between the people that live in La La Land over there and the rest of everybody else who just wants to enjoy Cleveland Indians baseball. I just truly believe that they live in a fictional place that is different from where everybody else resides, man, because I was telling the story that I texted you about driving past the giant dollar dog advertisement and just in general. And you know what? Hell, I don't care if they were 60-40 or 40-60 at this point in the season. That alone, it's just like, I mean, you don't even put the opponent up on the damn billboard. You just go, hey, come get a hot dog for $1, And it's like, whatever, man. And then that, when you scold the fan base on Twitter. I mean, I can just tell you this realistically, like I'm able, and you are too, able to follow the fan bases and their passion and their interest based on how many people listen to my show or read your website or visit your website or whatever. And I was telling somebody the other day, I said, you should see. Matter of fact, when JK was in here in studio a couple weeks ago, I actually showed him on one of the sites a bar graph, a pie chart, whatever, of the show's listenership in the months of the year. And I just started from January, and I showed him last year, and I said, usually, you get to the summer months, and depending on the Indians, there's a low level, but it's definitely lower than football season. But I know what the standard low level is. This year, it hit that, and then boom, basketball spiked it. Actually, I will say this, man, people were more interested in the Cavs run than anything which they should have been, which I was shocked because usually they don't follow what they should be interested in, more than anything else that we talk about here, man. I mean, it was huge during the couple months there to the finals. As soon as baseball hit back again, plummet. And I mean, in the last 2 weeks, the low-level watermark of baseball fans has plummeted again to the point that I go, man, I mean, the sport that we have to talk about every day is the one that their own fan base doesn't even want to talk about right now, because it's amazing to me how even the baseball fans they're the only ones that listen in the summer, even some of them aren't listening to the show because they just, what's the point of talking about it every day? We have to watch it.
Yeah, I totally agree, Jerry. And if you read my story this morning on Did the Tribe Win Last Night, I am definitely very critical of the front office and the entire organization and their continuation to spin all of the things that you're talking about. And before we go any further, I'll start with what little bit of positive that I have. And I'll say, in nowhere in that article did I say, sell off all the pieces, go straight fire sale, blow this team up. I'm not fire, everyone in the front office and start over. I'm not saying that either. But, you hit the nail right on the head in disconnect. And I've had this conversation with tons of people over the years, and where has been the tipping point. And I think the big thing is there hasn't been a tipping point. It's a slow degrade. And to me, what's left is a fan base. All of our 3 sports teams in this town have a die-hard. There is a group of people, whether games or win 100 games, will be die-hard Indians fans. And the same is true with the Cavs, and the same is definitely true with the Browns. They can know, and there are people that will ride the bandwagon no matter what. But to me, in terms of the Indians, all that's left is that die-hard fan base. And for the majority of people, I would say since 2001, since the end of that playoff run, since the real birth of the Shapanetti era, if you want to call it that, has been a slow degrade. And all that's left is if they're playing well, they pay attention, and if they're not, they turn them. And if the team is not competitive, then they win once or twice. They kind of check the box, and they start getting ready for Browns training camp. And that's where we're at with this season. And I think a lot of people are upset, and I think they're deservedly so. I mean, I hate to say this, but Chris Antonetti has been telling people since 2011, 2012 that they're going to compete. And at this point, they have a one-game wild card that they got shut out 4-0 to show for that quote-unquote window of contention. I think people are right to be upset, and I think they're right to office says. I mean, you and I make jokes about it kind of on a regular basis. Their press releases come out and they talk of, winning, 18 of their last 35. That's 18 and 17. That's not anything to brag about.
Yep.
The spin, there's always positive spin, no matter how bad things are. And I think the average fan is really upset with it. And I think this weekend is a prime example. On Friday, Antonetti compares this team to the Royals that took off last year.
Yeah.
And 3 games later, in the span of 48 hours, I mean, they play uninterested, uninspired. Rick Manning called it, zombie baseball.
Zombie
yesterday.
baseball, yep.
That's not a team that's ready to take off, and he knew it.
It feels like a team that the weight of what had happened earlier it was like the water where the bucket filled up and then just one more drop just kind of broke it. That's what, and I'm with you. I was out of town all weekend wrestling, and I said this earlier. I said, man, I was planning on coming back in and catching up on baseball. I really thought, man, you got the White Sox coming in, you got the Larry Doby. There'll be at least the Royals series will be fun, and I can drive Mike nuts and talk about it and blah blah blah. And because I was looking forward to it, I'm like, man, we'll get there on Monday, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, Mike, here we go, man. You got a chance to really chop into the Royals a little bit here, and you'll go, hey, man, and I could have had some fun. And no, 1 by 1 this weekend, I'm getting the score, and the one was, you give up 10 runs, and I'm just like, come on, man. I mean, I didn't even have to watch it to know that it was zombie baseball, and I got home, and there wasn't a chance in the world that I was going to ruin my weekend by catching back up to that, and it's a damn shame because look, the stage was set there, and they continue to do it, and do it at home. That's the worst part, is these guys go out on the road, and they're at least a competitive baseball team that plays above 500. Mike, listen, I'm curious your thoughts on this. Jonathan Knight and I, we kind of got into this several times in the last couple of weeks, especially on Friday, and Dan Wismar has an interesting kind of take on it himself, but even during the crappy years, man, even during the years when they almost lost, 90, 100 games here a few years back in the dark days before they brought Terry in there when things were getting ugly, they still played slightly better than 500 at home, and they stunk on the road. They've never been god-awful at home, and this season, you're the only person that's ever pitched this to me, and I'm just going to throw it at you, and you may know where I'm going with this, and I'm curious if this maybe even matters. Maybe not, but the fact that they've never really collapsed as far as playing at home, and he theorized that it wasn't even conscious level, several years or 2 seasons, is, several years in a row of, say, 2013, 2014, now 2015, playing in front of crickets and intimate gatherings and all of these things, and your one sellout is the first game of the year. All of those things that we talk about. On a subtly, are they not getting up? You know where I'm going. Are they not psychologically as into playing at Progressive Field anymore as they are when they can just concentrate on baseball on the road?
Well, the only thing they have to do is baseball. They're, guys are cooped up in hotels. They sleep in the morning. They get up. They eat. They go to the ballpark. They get ready to play. They play. They do it over again. I'm sure that there's something to that, but that's gone on forever and ever. My answer to the theory that they don't like playing in front of intimate gatherings would be, I'm not sure that I think in terms of this year, their poor play has created that. But, the attendance problem has nothing really to do with this year's poor play. They've had an attendance problem and a disconnect for quite some while. Back to the message that the organization sends. I think if you're a fan, just look at the last weekend. Who do you believe? Who do you rally around? Do you buy what Chris Antonetti has to say on Friday, or do you buy what Jason Kipnis and Terry Francona had to say yesterday? And I really think to the average fan, if the Indians would stop telling me that the glass is always half full and just start telling the truth. I'm not advocating to throw guys under the bus, but don't come out on Friday, a week before the deadline, and tell me that you're still in it when you're the 10th or the 11th team in the American League. You're not in it. Just be honest with fans. I think when fans feel like they're receiving spin, they feel like they're being lied to, whether that's the case or not. And I think that is the biggest reason of the disconnect. So, that disconnect with the organization is why fans aren't going. Yeah. I'll give you a theory as to why this team in particular isn't winning at home.
Okay.
And maybe they're a little bit better on the road. This team is so tilted one way in terms of being so strong pitching and so poor offensively. Progressive Field, especially in the summer, is a hitter's
park. Yeah,
ball
absolutely.
Flies out to right field and to right center field, and they're not taking advantage of it. And I think as strong as their pitching is, when their offense doesn't take advantage of it, their pitching becomes a little bit neutralized at home, and when they get out on the road, they get into some pitchers' parks, and the numbers flip back the other way. I think that's the reason for fans to, the starting pitching in itself. There's reason for fans to be upset, because I was telling one of our writers this weekend, Bob Toth, I said, I think one of the most disappointing or foolhardy things in my mind is that people assume that this starting rotation, because they're locked under contract and because they're all young, that all 5 of these guys are just going to walk out there for, the next 2, 3, 4 years and put up the numbers that they have this year. And I think anyone that has followed this team on a regular basis knows that, that's just not true. Guys go through ups and downs. Guys are injured. How many guys, not even on the Indians, just in general, have injuries, have Tommy John. This could be the best season of this rotation for all we know. And that would be a really good year. To me, they're wasting a playoff caliber starting rotation this year.
Yeah.
And you can't be assured that it's going to just magically be there for you for the next 2 or 3 years.
I agree. Absolutely. I'm with you there, man. And that kind of ties around into what I said, even at the beginning, and Dan and I were talking about it. And even at the very start of the show, I kind of went into this. And you and I, we've batted around the front office. I even threw your words out there. I said, I can hear Mike now because we've talked about this before. Traditionally, the Indians don't eat this, and they won't. That is where, and you and I can start there, looking forward as far as even what they're going to do this week or whatever. But when you talk about that disconnect, to me, it can come nowhere more. Just the easiest example is the fact that they're playing with effectively the $60 million payroll. And I was telling Dan, I'm like, man, that's what teams do when they want to lose as many games as possible. Like when the Astros want to clear the decks, that's the payroll you trot out there, a $55-60 million payroll or whatnot. And that's what the Indians are doing. And now I can't fight them, and you and I can't, even though last year people wanted them to cut ties. I mean, listen, there is a reality to we made a mistake, and we have to eat this for another season because we had just started these contracts. But to me, you're truly giving a big FU to your fan base when in year 3 and in year 4, you're looking at them and shrugging your shoulders and going, well, we're kind of hamstrung with these, but we're still going to be able to do the best we can. No, at that point, and look, it's easy for me to get on a soapbox and go, write a $30 million check, but you know what? You fellas ain't crying poor, man, and you make a lot more money than people know about, man. Listen, you write that check, and you don't make this team and its fan base suffer through another season of, well, we just got to wait one more year till we clear those contracts off the books. I'll suffer through them for 2 years. And now we've gotten a 3rd year. You do it a 4th year, and you're just showing the fan base that they're right, that you really don't care about anything except the bottom line.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we can go down the age-old, you got to spend money to make money,
No, I'm not even saying that. I'm saying I get the budget, but when you screwed it, I mean, come on, man. I mean, really. You did the reality of it a couple of weeks ago when you broke it down about how just to bring this freaking team back next year, you're already spending more money, and we haven't even made it better yet.
Sure. No, I totally agree with that. And I mean, I've been harping on that for a while. I mean, look, I know I have, if you want to call out, where I missed, that's fine, where I hit, but I mean, I certainly was never a big believer in this team, and I'm not looking to show off my pound of "I told you so," but I mean, I think it's fair to 2014 there were small changes, and and the team went backwards. From 2014 to 2015, there were again small changes, and the team is. I mean, I don't think it takes a scientist to figure out, Jerry, that if you only make small changes from 2015 to 2016, guess what's going to happen? This team is probably going to move backwards again. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't think that this team is turning this season around. I don't think they're going on a, 38-10 run to the playoffs or anything. I think there's a lot better chance that this team's going to lose 90 games this year. And I don't think if they make they have to make changes. And again, I'll say, I'm not advocating to blow this team up sky high. They have a core in place.
Yes.
But they're going to have to ask themselves, what are they going to put around that core? And just like you said, if we're just riding out the Nick Swisher and Michael Bourne contracts, then there's not going to be any major changes for next year. And I'll fast forward 6 months to our conversation in March, and you ask me how I think the team's going to do. I'm going to tell you that they're not going to be very good.
No, let me jump in. Let me ask you, because you kind of know the numbers here and stuff. So let's look, this isn't the variables. Let's just keep this really simple and general. Let's just say, as it stands now, what was your number? And let's take off the $30 million. What for the remainder of the team? What will it cost to bring the other 23 back? And I'm not even. There's a reason I'm asking that. Like, what is it going to jump up to? Like, if that's right now about $60 million, will it be closer to 70 next year for that group of guys? Is that what we're looking at?
Right. So
okay.
In very rough math, and I wrote this story last Monday. You can find it on our site. But if you look at what an estimated payroll for this team would be for next season, including Swisher and Bourne, you would roughly be right at about $100 million.
Okay, so without them, you're about 7. Okay, so $70 million, and let's just say that ownership says, "Hey, we broke even this year or whatever. We lost some money because attendance wasn't good, so we've got to keep the payroll at about $90 million next year. I'm just saying, I said it earlier to you, Mike, to me, to anybody listening. I dare you to take $20 million and not be able to make this a better baseball team, man. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's not peanuts there. That's a couple of players that can fix your lineup. It is baseball peanuts.
Yeah, but
you know what
I mean, in fairness,
that's what I'm saying. No. What I'm saying is that can't count on the pay field. That can count towards we lost $30 million. I'm saying to get your 25. You know what? That's what I'm saying is do not make the fan base sit through another. We have to sit through this. That's what I mean. That's the point where you have to eat that. You have to eat that this off season.
Well, the best I can tell you is, and I know I've said this a million times.
They don't eat salary.
The Dolans have never eaten that.
Eaten
that kind of salary. And when you say a $90 million payroll on the field, I mean,
it's not great.
I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but you're kind of twisting their numbers on the field, and then their 30 that's not on the field. I mean, you're asking the Indians to go to a $120 million payroll, and I mean, I can hear fans right now.
I'm not asking them to do anything, Mike.
Do it.
No, I'm not asking them to go to. I'm telling them you deal with your mistake and don't pass it along to the consumer for. That's what I'm.
Fortunately, that's not how they.
Part of the disconnect, brother. That's part of the reason that there's 10,000 fans there every night.
I agree. I'll give you. Not a solution, but I think something that would just mend fences. In some small way between the average fan and the front office would be, just admit that they made a mistake in these guys. I mean, I'll be the first one. Like I said, I mean, I don't ever come on here to, brag about what I got right and what I've got wrong. I'll be the first one to own it. When they signed Nick Swisher and Michael Bourne, I thought they were both good signings. Okay, I'll own that, and I've never backed away from that. If you go back on our site, I wrote stories at the time and praised this front office for it. So, nobody bats 1,000. They certainly got it wrong, but I think in a lot of ways, and look, a lot of fans. My point in saying where I was all for their signing. A lot of fans were excited. I mean, I remember the emails of 20% of their season ticket fan base increased within a week after they signed Michael Bourne at the beginning of 2013 in spring training. So I mean, I wasn't the only one that was excited about those signings. So all the people that line up and tell you that they didn't want those guys, I have a feeling that some of them were pretty excited when they did sign them. But I agree with you. Again, getting back to they always have some spin, and to me, the front office is very slow to ever admit they're wrongs. It's okay to be wrong sometimes, and it's okay to admit it. I mean, if they would come out and say, look, man, these guys haven't played to the level of expectation that we thought they would, and we're hamstrung by it. I'm not saying
you know what? Let me give you an example.
30,000 people go flying through the gate the next day.
Let me jump in. Let me give you an example, Mike. A different sport, but because we just went through Cavs season, and I could equate this. Cavaliers went into this season, and look at the ridiculousness, by the way, of the media expectations every day. That's still an 82 game season, by the way. That's a rather long season too, man. And it's still early. But look, imagine if at the January 19th, what if Chris, Chris Grant, he got fired. What if David Griffin looks at the thing? I was thinking of Chris Antonetti. What if he looks and goes, you know what? I believe in Dion Waiters, and I believe that this team's going to pull it together, and looks at the fan base and sells that. I'm just telling you that run, we all know, doesn't happen if they don't look at that team and go, hey, man, we've got a window here. And we can't waste it. We could have easily said, hey, let's see how this year finishes out, and then we'll make our changes, and we'll really make our run next year. What did everybody say? No, you got to go get it, and they went. I know it's a different sport, different situation. My point is it's two teams that went into a season with the same expectations, and say what you want. And everybody, by the way, and it's not like they're unfair to the Indians, and they ask them to spend money and not. Right now, people have no problem spending hundreds of millions of Dan Gilbert's dollars. And I don't have a problem with that either, by the way. But people just go, hey, write the luxury tax check for $300 million. That's not payroll. That's just giving it just here $300 million in taxes. But anyways, got no problem writing that check. So, but my point is they had the same window, saw it, and did not take that, well, let's wait and see, because this would have ended up totally differently, and who knows how the rest of that season would have went. And that's the way they get one owner, and they go, hey, man, that guy went for it, and we had a run, and wow, man, can't wait till next season. And the other one every year. And if they'd done it once or twice, that fan base in 1901 had not yet disappeared. They didn't just go, oh, the Jacobs sold the team, I'm not going anymore. They kept coming. They didn't sell out 456 anymore, but they kept coming to the games until they felt broken promises over a couple of seasons in a row, and then they started to lose some of their favorite players, and then the disconnect began, and it got spread even more and more. But it's not like they just said, oh, damn, these Dolans bought the team, we're not going anymore. And when you've been sold the patience line from 2002 until 2015, that's why I say 20% is my number. The day the Dolans sell the team, the next season will have a 20% increase in ticket sales for no players, just because a different person owns the team. I believe that much of the fan base, whether it's right or not, holds it against them. But I'm just saying the general window changed their team, went and did what they did. The Indians look at you and say, no, we believe in the guys that we got, and we're going to hold the fort and hold the ship.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with some of what you're saying, and I think some of it is apples and oranges. I agree with the overall message of, the Cavs certainly changed the direction of their season, and that's where I'm advocating. I mean, look, I'm not advocating to blow this team up and start all over.
No, me neither.
But if you hear rumors, and I'm not saying, again, not to sound like Chris Antonetti, but they should be listening to all phone calls on all players. And if someone wants to pay dearly, someone wants to give them 2 or 3 players for a major league ready player. I mean, if someone wants to, teams are interested in Carlos Carrasco, I think they should be listening. I'm not saying they need to push the button, but you can't just live in the vacuum of just continuing to build around this core and do it at an $80 million or $85 million payroll, because that is going to land this team right where it's at right now, and they're going to go nowhere. I guess where I disagree with you is, it's easy to say move, comparing Dion Waiters to Michael Porter.
See, no. I know where you're going. You can't make trades and change yours. I just mean as much as refusing to stay stuck in the my way is right. I put this together. We're gonna see it through. I think it may have sounded like I meant making a mid-season trade, and I know that those don't always work many times in baseball. So I did not mean it that way.
I completely agree with that in terms of, you need to say, oh, it's going to be better, to me, is fool's gold. I mean, that's what they did at the beginning of this season, Jerry. And I, again, I was one of the people that said, why is this team suddenly, in everyone's eyes, a 90, plus winner? They've done nothing to change this roster from the year before. And, the best argument that someone could give in spring training was they thought the Royals and Tigers would be worse.
Yeah,
well,
I was there.
If your best claim to being a better team is that you think other people have, regressed, then you're probably not a very good team. And the average fan of this team, but is going to be a winner for a while. And I can hear the people at Carnegie and Ontario right now, as I say that, I can hear them saying, we have all these guys signed. Well, you know, they want to make an analogy to the Royals. I'll give them an analogy to the Royals in that, to me, this team isn't anything like the Royals of last year. This team's a lot closer to the Royals of 2012 and 2013 that were the popular pick with the young core of guys who just didn't ever seem to put it together. And because of that disconnect between this organization that is, you know, closing in on 15 years, we're 13 years in now. And like you said, I mean, it's been a slow, you know, degrading of the fan base. It's going to take time for it to come back. And telling people about a core that's under contract and telling people about what's going to happen isn't going to get people back in that ballpark. You're going to have to show them at this point because too many bridges have been burned to just be told of what's going to happen.
Agreed. Absolutely. And that's rebuild. And that's part of why at that time they had that increase when they signed those guys, because it was more than anything, the reaction that we got was just spending money on something and somebody and making a move and going for it, you know? And and again, I don't sit here and go, yeah, just write checks for all of these players. I don't want all of that. You know what I mean? But I just believe that what they're doing, I mean, really what they did this year. And listen, I was right there. I thought the team would be better simply because of the fact that I believe in the core like many people. I thought the defense would be improved a little bit. I mean, whatever. I thought that they would be better. I obviously was way off on that. You and I talked about it and I will give you that, bro. You had it nailed from the off season. You kept talking about it and saying nothing has changed, and I'm with you, man. Still, I don't want them to sign everybody, man, but at the same time, the reason nothing changed is because really the confines, and it makes it easy, but it's such an easy thing to point to, is the fact that it's literally like if you look at your computer when you bring up the memory and then it shows you that part of it that you can't touch and it's like blocked off by the computer and you're like, why can't I access that? That's the pie chart of the Indians' payroll, and it's got a giant third of it blocked off that you just can't touch. You can't access it, you know?
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. And look, I mean, we can talk about the front office, and I think they deserve all of this. Absolutely.
We've got plenty of time for that, man. We don't even got to get into that.
But I'll tell you one thing, Jerry. I mean, I think the front office puts a spin on things that is wrong, and I think most fans see that. That's where they'll be, you know, brutally honest and say, you know, the 4-game sweep to the White Sox, the absolutely uninspired play, the lack of interest from several guys on the field, the comments that Jason Kipnis made yesterday. I mean, look, he didn't call out, you know, guys by name, but look, the comments that he made, if you're going to make those, you have people in mind. And I'm sure that he has guys in mind, and if they had, you know, the lengthy team meeting that they supposedly did yesterday, I'm going to guess that those guys were confronted. That's not playing hard, not caring, going through the motions. You know, that's not on Chris Antonetti, and that's not on the Dolan. That's on the 25 guys in that clubhouse. And I think that's a problem in itself. If you've got guys in there that aren't given 100%, that's a big problem. And I think it's obvious. I mean,
he made some comments, man. He said there's guys playing for themselves. There's guys, you know what I mean? Like, that's very poignant coming out of the locker room, you know?
And that's why I said, I mean, if you're going to make those comments, you know, when the media's standing in front of you, you've got people in mind. Jason Kipnis was not just speaking off the cuff.
Right,
I mean,
absolutely.
And that's something that's been bubbling up. I mean, that didn't just happen this weekend. Believe me, guys observe each other all the time, and guys have bad days, okay? But, you know, he didn't call guys out by name. But to me, you know, there's guys on this team, I think it's fairly obvious. And if you don't see it, I mean, without me giving you their names, listen to Tom Hamilton. Who Tom Hamilton has watched Indians baseball for 25 years on a daily basis. Who does he harp on? Who does he call out when they, make fundamental mistakes, when they make base running mistakes, when they're not in the right position on the field? There are guys that he calls out on a somewhat regular basis. I'm going to tell you, those are the same guys that Jason Kipnis is talking about.
Absolutely. I agree. Matter of fact, we've been mentioning that, all of us, during our conversations this year about some of the people that Hammy's been calling out and how that, is a little bit different because you don't always hear that, but you've been hearing that, and I agree with you. Absolutely there, man. And, that's the other thing. I don't care what you send me in your silly emails, like you did today. Send me an email that says, Carrasco shines. Unfortunately, White Sox finish sweep, that's great, man. Like, you just got wiped out in your own, hey, it's cool. Well, Carrasco had a good start, man. I mean, I know that's your job in the PR department. I'm totally kidding. If nobody listened to my show today, I would have to send out a press release about what a great show it was. As a matter of fact, usually when less people show up, you hype on how better it was even more, because you want to make people wish that they were there. So maybe that's what the front office is doing. But I mean, I'm with you, dude. In every aspect of that, man. And man, what do you? All right, let's wrap this up this way, man. What do you see happening this week? Obviously, at the end of the week, you've got the trade deadline coming up, and who do you see as, to you, perhaps the most top of the list guys that you do not expect to be Indians by the time we talk again?
I think, there's a really, really good chance that when the deadline's over, David Murphy and Ryan Rayburn will no longer be with us. And to be honest, considering their payroll problems for next year, that rough $100 million to put this team back out there, that doesn't count picking up Murphy and Rayburn's option. If you want those guys, you're up to 110 for the same roster. So, I think, you don't have to be a genius to figure out that that's not going to happen. So, I'd be gone. I would also tell you, I don't think that anything coming back for either of those guys, first of all, they're role players and they're rentals. So you're not going to get anything back that's going to really move the needle in terms of, building the farm system or bringing back parts to improve this roster anytime soon. I think, we are to a point where the guys in the front office, they have to think, Jerry, they have to be willing to listen and entertain all options. And guys whose names I think you'll continue to hear, no matter what they say, I think you'll continue to hear Carlos Carrasco. I think you'll hear Carlos Santana's name, and I think you'll hear Brandon Moss's name. And I'm not sure that the trigger gets pulled on those guys, but I think there's distinct possibility. I would love to see, personally, a Carlos Santana to the Houston Astros trade. That's a team that's thirsty for a hitter, that's thirsty for offense. They're very analytical. They will like a guy like Santana. They see the value in all his walks, and they have a farm system where their window is opening and opening quite widely. And to me, they've asked their fan base to suffer through several hundred lost seasons. If you're ever going to push your chips to the middle, you reward those fans who have sat through 100 lost seasons. To me, that's a match if you kind of want to, retool as you rebuild. And I think at this point, and from trade talks before, I'm a guy who always says, you got to give something to get something. And I know Carlos Santana has his fan club out there. I think the guy has value. That's why I'm a fan of moving him now, because his value is declining. We've sat on guys in the past until their value is hitting near rock bottom. Let's sell before that value gets any lower. And the Indians owe him $20 million over the next 2 years. They can say it's not about the money, but we just talked about the money for 20 minutes. So it's always about the money.
All right, man. Well, we'll see. By the time you and I talk, we'll be past trade deadline number 1, and we'll see what the Indians do. I'm curious to see what they do here in the next couple of days against the Royals. I mean, obviously, you're in a position where, I mean, you can at least, have a good series here and at least keep your season afloat. I'm not even floating down any river of contention or anything. I just mean keeping your season afloat, or it can go from bad to worse here. I mean, you come out of the weekend and then you get blown out of the water by the Royals, man, and it could just really start a deeper spiral downhill. But I don't know. What do you look to see? What do you expect to see? I mean, we saw it's hard to even picture them changing like that zombie baseball, as everybody's using the term, of what they did this weekend. I mean, I don't care how it's the second or third team meeting this year. Diminishing returns, brother.
You just took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, I want to see this team play with some pride, and I want to see this team play with some pride and some fire. And I want to see it for, longer than a week because, everybody, you can have a team meeting all the time and you can come out and you can play well against a better team. But if over the span of the next couple of weeks they just slowly slide back into that zombie baseball, like you said, this is the second or third team meeting this year. Nothing's changing. I mean, to me, that's another reason of you've got to take a long, hard look at this roster and make some changes that maybe – aren't just the fringe pieces, because this group as a whole, it's not working, Jerry.
Yep. Oh, I'm with you, man. Kansas City, too. It's not like they're coming in warm. They've won 15 out of 20 heading into this one here. So, and that's the number that you send out in your press release. 15 out of 20, not 18 out of 35, man. That was a perfect example, because I do believe they sent us one a couple weeks ago that said they've won 18 out of 35, and we're like, that's one game over 500, man. Like, that's like going, they've won 2 out of 3 or something like that. But anyways, I'm with that, Bruce. Fire the hitting coaches, but you know what? Don't do it during the season, because that doesn't change anything. But I'll tell you what, everybody for the last few seasons has talked about how the reason the Indians pitching has been what it's been is because you had the right talent with the right coach, and all the kudos, deservedly so, go into Mickey Callaway. To me, that applies in reverse on the hitting side of it. If you can give – now, obviously, the players play. But if you can give the utmost amount of credit to the pitching coach and his staff for what they've done – hell, the bullpen coach got a manager's job out of it. I mean, clearly there's respect around the league for that. Then, obviously, you have a broken link in your hitting side is just clearly –
I completely agree. I mean, certainly things aren't changing. So – I mean, there's got to be adjustments. You hear coaches and players talk about adjustments. See Carlos Santana take very often. That's an adjustment. He's still trying to hit it through the 7 guys standing on the right side. And the same goes for Brandon Moss. I mean, again, if you want to look into a crystal ball, I was telling someone this weekend. It sounds so simple, but look into a crystal ball, and in the next couple years, some GM is going to get praised because he's going to go out and acquire a team full of hitters that can hit the ball to all fields. And they're going to be like, man, this guy is a genius. He figured out that if the defense all stands on one side of the field, that if you can hit it to the other side with some consistency, you'll have to force them back over there, and the Indians aren't doing that. I mean, if you want to continue to try to hit it through 6 or 7 guys, you're going to have exactly what they have.
All right, Mike, let's wrap it up with that, man. The Indians, the Royals here this week. You and I, let's see, we talked today because I'm out the whole end of the week, beginning of next week. So it'll probably be, I don't know, about 12 days, 10 days, 12 days from now before you and I talk again. We'll catch up at the tail end of next week. We'll know what they did and all of that, and then we'll be able to at least that point, we'll kind of have a good look at what we're looking at in the second half. Are we checking out some Tyler Holt and some different guys, or what prospects are coming up? We'll see where things shake out for that, and I'm sure this week on DidTheTribeWinLastNight.com, you guys are working on trade deadline articles and all that stuff, right?
Absolutely. So, check us out, and like you said, 12 days from now, I think you have a real good idea as to, did they make a big move to try and shake up this roster, or are we playing out the string and we're looking at a winner of either bringing back the same guys, or are we gonna try and turn the 2016 season back into 2013 all over again? We're gonna try for the third time to do that.
All right. Hey, Mike, let's have some fun at a baseball park. How's that sound? What are you doing Saturday, man? You should come on out to All Pro Freight Stadium, man. I've got a big show at the Crusher Stadium, man. A big wrestling show, man. It's gonna be pretty fun, man. You should come on out and check it out. You've never seen me beat people up, have you?
I have never seen you beat people up. You are correct.
You should definitely
Saturday. That's a great question. I am booked solid Sunday, but off the top of my head, I do not have Saturday evening plans.
I'm just saying, man. It's the reunion of the Cleveland Mafia. One night only. Me and my partner flying up from Texas. He's out traveling the world beating people up, and he's going to take a break out of that schedule to come back to Cleveland. We're going to go back to our roots. But it's going to be a lot of fun. Bret the Hitman Hart's going to be there. A lot of guys that you may have heard of over the years. It's going to be a fun event, man. Plus, like I said, we've been suffering at the ballpark some time here in the last little bit, man. Let's go have some fun at the baseball park, man. You know what? Guess what?
Sure.
I can hit the ball to all fields because I'll just pick up the chair and I'll just whack somebody to left field, and then I'll whack them out to right field. I'm just saying, I don't need a hitting coach, man. I won't frustrate you. Come on out to the ballpark.
There you go. Base hits to all fields, offense, all you need.
That's it, man. You can build me a website. Did JRockWinLastNight.com, man. It'll be fantastic. No, but if you're not doing anything, man, let me know. It'd be great to see you out there, man. Come out and check it out. I think Dan Wismar's coming out to check it out. JK might actually be here because he's in town. He's actually throwing out the first pitch Saturday night at the captain's game, and we're going to try to finagle his way across town and then shoot over there and check it out. I'm like, well, interesting.
Look at JK. He is throwing first.
I know.
Throwing more pitches than Cody Allen.
I know. He threw out the first pitch again more than Cody Allen. He threw out the first pitch at the Rubber Ducks game. Now he's got the captain's game. JK's out there throwing out some first pitches, man. Gotta love it.
He's gonna start giving pitching lessons on the side. That'll be his next book.
I'm just saying. My life as a celebrity first pitcher by Jonathan Knight, and he can tell you how you do. You don't want to, how you prepare for your starts and all of that stuff, man. He's a modern day celebrity. He's up in Milwaukee, schmoozing the media up there for their major league night. He's traveling the country hitting major league nights and promoting the book, which is great. I love the book, and that would be so much fun. Like I said, writing the book was enough, but he used to just kind of make a living traveling around and talking some more about writing a book about everybody's favorite baseball movie. You can't beat that. Tough life for one Jonathan Knight.
Yeah, definitely. I would. If someone could just write the book for me, I would be happy to travel around and promote it.
Like yes.
It's the whole book writing part.
Dude, I told JK.
Catch me up.
Brother, I told JK this. He said, deal. I said, bro, I ever get rich and famous, I'm just going to tell you now, I'm going to make a vanity project out of you. I'm literally just going to pay you to write for me. Like, you just write me books. Like, I'm just going to tell you to write me a book, and you just write me a book, and I'll pay you for it, man. And, like, you just keep me entertained. Just in prose. Just keep putting it down for me, man. Like, always love checking his stuff out, man. But, yeah, he's just making the tour, so he'll be on one side of town, I'll be on the other. We'll get you to come on out and check it out, too, man, Saturday night. Talk to me off the air, man. I'll give you the
possibility. Mark me down as questionable.
Kind of like the Indians' offense. Thanks to Mike Brandenberry for joining us. Thanks to you guys for being with us. And, man, that's going to be the end of this thing. Great show. Can't wait to get back here on Wednesday, you guys. Until then, enjoy the Tribe and the Royals. They kick it off. Hopefully they can give you some baseball to enjoy here as they've got the 3-game set kicking off here. As I said, Kansas City's coming in 15 out of 20. Obviously, the Indians struggling coming off of that 4-game sweep there at the hands of the White Sox, and now they head into this series here with the Kansas City Royals. Cody Anderson on the mound, 2-1, 1.9 ERA. Of course, got batted around a bit last time out there. First time the league's really caught up to him. Let's see if he can shake that off. Edison Volquez on the other side of the mound for Kansas City tonight. Trevor Bauer and Chris Young, and as the billboard told me, it is Dollar Dog Night tomorrow at the stadium. Corey Kluber on Wednesday, 12:10 p.m. First pitch. Jeremy Guthrie wrapping that series up as well. Man, the Indians, see, even when I try to be nice to them, they schedule the game against the Wednesday show. That's the way it goes. Anyways, enjoy the Tribe, you guys. I look forward to catching up with you later this week. Same bat time, same bat channel, live Wednesday at noon, right here across the Sports Fix Radio Network. We love you, Cleveland and beyond. Have a great couple of days, and we'll see you Wednesday at noon, baby, right here on the Sports Fix.
Reality is all we know. Tuning in to Bravo. Yeah, you hear me everywhere, but it's only one of me. Let me make that very clear. Yeah, I'm from that terminal. You can see the lake from here. Faith in my teams, we keep getting closer every year. But we got the king, though, so hopefully we overcome. Yes, I have a dream, and I know I ain't the only one. Modell tried to steal my heart, but we brought it back. Thanks to Cleveland Clinic, now they call them Kiss the Cardiac. Rock Hall, Science Center, Tower City, all of that. Warehouse District, Euclid Corridor, and all the flat. You know that I'm a Tribes fan, and I love Slimans. Crockett Park's the perfect place for me to spend some time in. Baby, this is Cleveland. It is so much more to us. You can even go to Severn's Hall to see an orchestra. Hey.
We rep our city. Blue lights separate the grind from the gritty. We're sick fitted. Hood pass cover any city that we visit.